Hi everyone, Gilby here from Overdub Productions. I'm a mix engineer and today we are going to talk about mix prep in Ableton Live. If you would like to know more about what I do and listen to some of my work, head over to the link in the description below. So starting off, we have chosen a song. In my case, I got a song by Diezmo. It's called On My Work. I am going to go to my downloads folder as if I was just sent those files. In this video, I will show you the tools and the apps and the plugins that I use as well as Live's built-in pack. For clarification, you do not have to have the same tools as I do. I will always mention a quick brief about the tools that I'm using and then it's up to you whether to use it or not. The first thing I would do once the files have been downloaded is renaming them, starting by the artist name, then a hyphen, followed by a song title, key and tempo, and finally the sample rate. The first step, we are going to create a blank live session. The song is called On My Work, as I mentioned earlier. I would usually use my initials after the song title. My sample rate is set to 44.1K at 32-bit float. You guys can go to 48K or whichever you really like to do. However, the files we have are 44.1K and this is how we're gonna open the session. Next, we are going to make sure our session is saved in the correct location in our hard drive, and that's it, we're ready to go. So now we are going to import our tracks in this session. What are we going to do is select all the files and drag and drop them into this session. Go to the song folder and always double check you are in the right folder. Simply select all the tracks, drag them down while holding the command key and Live will organize them for you. If you get these directly from the client, they might not look so clean and organized, so you would have to do the work. You may have to go look for different tracks to properly arrange them in your session. Please let me know in the comments below if you would like me to make a separate video on how to clean and organize your tracks in Live. What I usually like to see in my session is drums, followed by percussions. The next would be keys, main rhythm progression, followed by synth, and any solo elements right after, leading on to background vocals, and then finally lead vocals. Next, I would move on to gain staging in Live. This is a very, very important element in mixing in Live. There are a number of ways to do this. I will show you what I usually do. I set my tracks to -20 dB full scale peak. The way to do this is once you've created the track, you would go to your plugin folder and go to utilities and drag it onto the track. You find the highest point in the track and set it to -20 dB full scale. And then you are going to have to do that on every single track. There is another option which I use. I have already set my default track settings to having a utilities plugin and an EQ8 plugin. It is self-explanatory. You can do that for every single track. Sometimes I use an app called Stereo Monoizer. It lets you import all your tracks and automatically analyzes your files and its stereo content. Then you can convert those to the correct format and peak setting before importing it into Live or whichever DAW you use. This saves lots of CPU resources that you can use later for mixing. I definitely encourage you to set your gain structure at this point, as it will give you plenty of headroom to work with later. Alright, so we have imported our tracks and we have done our gain staging at this point. Keep in mind that at this point, if you have live drums, you would need to start phase aligning your drum tracks. For example, snare top bottom, kick in and out microphones, and your overheads. When you have a large number of microphones that you have used for recording your drum kit, phase alignment is key. I usually use Sound Auto Align or IPB from Universal Audio. I'm going to cover this later in another video. However, this is the point where I would start phase aligning my drum tracks before moving forward. You would want to do that before using any EQ or compression, as you would need to have the best possible source files before doing any processing. So next step, I would move to routing these tracks. As you can see here in live, the default route to imported tracks is the master bus, which is what we are going to change. I like to have certain groups going to certain buses. So kicks all get routed to my kicks bus, which leads me to my return tracks. My return tracks I have in my template are a collection of audio racks I have developed over the years. So you can see, for example, I have my kicks augs, which sends the signal to my drums distortion return. And what I have there is a saturator, which feeds an overdrive plugin. Then the signal gets compressed next, and finally it goes to these EQs, in which I have a roll-off at 5K and a notch at 3K. My snare group goes to my distortion bus. The rest of my drum kit goes to my drums augs, which gets processed into my rack here. You can see I have a chain list. You can see dry is first, crush, and distressor is last. This is my own impression of the hardware sound of Empirical Labs. Toms get routed to my Toms augs, which has a nice short reverb. It's followed by a limiter to keep its level contained. My percussions are grouped together. They have no processing at all. There is a slight send to a harmonizer return track that I have created, which has a dynamic tube followed by a frequency shifter. Next on my returns, I have vocal reverb. Here I am running a bandpass filter, and only that portion of the signal gets to the reverb. Next, I have an Elvis style kind of slab delay with a bit of distortion when the signal comes in. Then I have vocal distortion, which essentially is a heavy compressor for backing vocals and the leads as well. Lastly, I have a spread return track. It has a short gated delay for width. We are not going to discuss my master bus processing at this point, as I will have a separate video for this. So template breakdown is done, and now we have talked about the routing. So now I am going to start actually routing those tracks and make sure each track is assigned to the relevant group. So now that's done, we are ready to move on to our next video. We will go through the rough mix process, so stick with me, we will push our faders up and start mixing. So if you have any comments or suggestions regarding this stage of the mixing process, do let me know down in the comments. That's it for today. So if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel for more mixing tutorials in Ableton.